Okay, so this is the top part of a list of the normal trials and normal raids in FF14, by which I mean it's the best 32 fights out of the 96 that are in the game prior to Dawntrail, which comes out in like 2 days and will add another minimum 3 probably. If you are here without having watched the rest of this, I mean, okay, I kind of get it. Part of the exciting part is finding out what's at the top, but like, you could just watch the whole thing, like, go back and watch the rest. I suggest it so you get a sense of all of the things that I've had to kick out of the list to make room for these 32 bangers. So, having said that, what's the least banger of the bangers? Coming in at 32nd place, the Eden version of Rama. Yeah, no, this fight kind of kicks ass. It's generally really fast-paced, especially during the thunderstorm segments. The mechanics demand your respect, because they're either going to do tons of damage if you try not to do them, or just outright kill you. Like, you'll get knocked off the platform, you'll get just straight up obliterated for unsurvivable damage. It's a fight that refuses to be outgeared. It isn't necessarily the most varied fight in the game, and like, almost everything is pretty well telegraphed, so it's not super spicy. But no, this fight's just all around a real good banger. You get a great remix. You get to do it on the Thunder Plains, like the Final Fantasy X Thunder Plains. And also Ramuh gets to be mixed with Ixion, because our memory is great. So... Sage said, I'm surprised this lost out over some of the others on your list, but it's a good fight. Yeah, this list is just going to be back-to-back banger fights. Like, almost any single fight on this list, I could see somebody saying is one of their favorites in the game. So. Cecil said, this is my oh no, he's hot. 31. Such devastation. It's the Ultima weapon. The best fight in ARR. Mostly because the reverbed version of this is kind of going absolutely ham on integrating the story beats even better than the original. Like, it better integrates the primal attacks and the transitions and stuff. It better paces the fight itself. We still get all the really cool stuff, like him literally knocking airships out of the sky to crash down on the battlefield for attacks. Like, this fight is not spicy in the slightest. Even with the item level cap, it still feels like this fight is really undertuned most of the time, I think. I don't know if I've ever seen anybody actually die during it since its update. And, like, the long pauses between things being able to be done is kind of unfortunate. But I think the story integration aspects of it make it the best designed fight in ARR. And, like, on a visual and audio front, yeah, no, this is fucking peak ARR right here. This is a really good remix of the final battle of the original story. Aubert said, I remember hearing this in Mobius before joining 14 and being amazed. Yeah, understandable. Cecil said, talk about a glow up. Sage said, I do love that this fight is the first time you see out Limit Break 3. Yup. All really cool beats. Number 30. Sophia the Goddess is my choice of the best part of the Warring Triad fight. Like, unlike Sephiroth, I don't think there's a slow part in this fight, and unlike Zervin, I feel like this fight has a lot bigger sense of identity and, like, uniqueness to it. Like, especially just, obviously, there's literally tipping the scales for a Goddess of Balance. There's, like, just all the varied mechanics that are going on, a lot of attacks using the visual tells over, like, traditional cast bars. Like, I've just really come to like this fight a whole lot over the years. I also think this song is awesome. Just want to put it out there. Technically, this song is basically all the lore that we ever actually really learned about Sophia. And it's a hell of a little story if you're not familiar with it. So, yeah, no, this one stands up really high on the scores for me. This is our first 23, and there's, like, the next 10 fights all scored 23. So, like, put them in whatever order you personally want, because they're basically all tied for, like, 23rd. Blue said, high on the scales. That was actually unintentional. What am I doing with my life? Tomonaki said, I was always more of a Sephiroth fan versus Sophia, but I get it. That's fair. Sephiroth definitely leaves more of an impact at first, but I think Sophia's the better fight overall. 29. Is Omega MNF. So, like, as an actual fight, just purely on the fight side of things, this fight's really good. It's super spicy. It has a bunch of different and distinct phases. It does interesting things with the fact that there are 2 different bosses. They pull out your freaking limit breaks or emulations thereof and other abilities that you have in trying to emulate you and figure out the source of your power. It's very neat on the fight side. The visuals are pretty poppin' too. Literally, I think the biggest thing holding this fight back is that I just do not care for this track. Like, it's a fine enough remix of key 14 themes, but Cecil points out something I did also want to point out, which is that the designs for this boss are based on the original art for the male and female player characters for FF14 1.0, like the Amano artwork, which is why they are the way they are, which is cool. Yeah. As a fight, this fight's a blast. I'm just not as enthused about most of the rest of its stuff around it. Garasa said, but what if they found Dynamis? Then we're in ultimate difficulty. And that's a completely different fight. Uh, 28. It's the Ruby weapon. So this was a hell of a way to start off the weapons plotline. The first phase is absolutely Ruby weapon. Like, messing with the terrain, flying around, giant attacks, it's really cool. Tons of unique mechanics going on. Great fight mechanics. And then you get the phase transition and it becomes a completely different fight. I think mostly a worse fight. A Nail Deus Darnus is creepy, and the visual effects are off the chart. But also is a 90% of the time just you striking dummying her, and then maybe she pulls out one mechanic between her giant wind-up AoEs, and it drags the fight down some. Ironically, that's the part of the fight that people die on. Because that fight, like, Nail does have a hard enrage, actually, that I see groups fail way more than you would think. But yeah, it's good. It's a really good fight. I'm not super enthused about the choice of music, because Rise of the White Raven and, like, its counterparts and stuff get used a fair amount. But, like, yeah, it's good. Lou said, I do love that goopy version. Sage said, you said creepy, I say hot. Understandable. Here's the boss, popping out like an emerging cicada. Ruby weapon. And here comes Nail with the steel chariot. Yeah, nobody was... Nope. With the steel chariot. Number 27. So Titania's really good, okay? Like, just in general, for a fight that doesn't necessarily have, like, multiple music tracks and stuff, and, like, shouldn't really be all that impressive, I think she has a great variety of, like, design parts, a ton of just thematic integration, like, the whole ads phase and how that works, and it's actually multiple ads phases, and, like, the danger that those surprisingly bring. Like, this is actually just a really solid fight that maybe isn't super excelling at anything except its visual pop. I could certainly give it higher scores. I could argue for it. Like, I don't know, Titania's really good. Sage said, you put them back and put them in the top 5 where they belong. Yeah, this is a fight I definitely could see being among certain people's tops in the game. The track is so good. Cecil said it's her favorite single trial song in the game. So, seeing that danger of 4 and going, who the fuck is 5? Oh, don't worry. 26. The Phoenix in the maid dress. I mean, Suzaku. They really decided on that one, huh? Okay, but actually, Suzaku's a great fight. Like, all 3 phases of the fight are completely distinctive and interesting. The middle one's, the middle one's slow. It breaks up the pace of the fight, but it is interesting and unique. The first phase is big on the Phoenix motif, and then you get to the third phase with, like, the unique arena, getting shoved around it, always having to move around, but then also the whole, like, hey, I'm setting out this basically remote detonator, is really cool. It's a bunch of fun puzzles. It makes for a really distinctive fight. It's fairly engaging. I love the transformations of the arena, and Suzaku herself has a great design in the final phase. The music is really good. The biggest thing I think limits this fight is just that it doesn't live long enough for the main mechanic of the final phase to really take off. Like, it doesn't take off that hugely in Trials, like, difficulty anyway, compared to Extreme, but it definitely, like, it just doesn't quite live long enough to see the full of it and reach the full danger that causes people to start bouncing all over the place. Get in the hole. Healers with rescue, probably. Yep. That is fun, that you can just decide people will die as a healer in this fight. Aubert said, oh, speaking of top 5, you know what? Understandable. Like, this is a top 3 or maybe 1 for me. Oh, damn. Okay. Aubert's really thirsty for the world's thirstiest bird, huh? Anyway, speaking of potential top 5 fights in the game for people, 25. Brute goddamn justice. Let's be real, the only reason this is ending up down here is that it is kind of shot in the foot by overgearing. And also having kind of a slow wind-up phase in general, but like, otherwise, hell yeah. Okay, also, I guess I kind of have to complain about the fact that the arena design is actually nothing. Like, the environment of this fight is completely nothing. But it's literally former bosses coming back and Voltroning together into a super robot with its own Super Sentai Saturday morning opening theme. It was the funniest phase transition in the game. I was in no way ready for it. Somehow I missed the trailer that apparently previewed that this boss was doing it. It's totally carried by its design and theme, but it is actually executing that design and theme really well. There's the whole breakdown sequence where it breaks into the parts and they all fly at you individually while the music goes into its big, like, child-voiced carried refrain cheering it on, and like, Sage said, I remember the first time I went in and like 4 of us died because we were just laughing. Yeah, absolutely. Flex said, nothing will ever be the first time here. Yeah, this is the first time you get here. Just absolutely nuts. Uh, 24 was a fight I have mentioned earlier. Fatebreaker is a really cool as hell fight. Like, almost perfect marks on the combat front, to be honest. The design had fun and interesting and unique mechanisms to it. Multiple different twists on those mechanics. It is spicy. There's lots of ways for players to die in this fight. You have to be paying constant attention throughout the fight. Even during the seeming breaks, you have to be aware of what it is doing. Literally, the lost marks here are just presentational. Like, the boss and its spell effects are great. The rest of it is... And, like, the music is fine. It's an okay mix of one of the FF8 final boss tracks. It's carried a little bit higher by the fact that Thancred's voicing it. Yeah. This is the fight that Themis wishes it was. Aubert said, God, I wish the story dove into this more, because holy frick, daddy issues galore. Yeah, it literally just the manifestation of all of Reen's suppressed trauma around her dad's. Like... Adio said, still one of, if not my favorite fights. Yeah, this is, like, grading it in terms of, like, the presentation and stuff, dragging it down. Personally, this could probably be a top 10. The Savage version is definitely one of my top 10 Savage fights. Sage actually thinks I got things right. That's rare. Okay. 23. So the Gomez fight is great. Like, first off, this fight is spicy and engaging as hell. This is probably one of the most dangerous fights we've had as a regular trial. It isn't necessarily bringing anything new to the table, is its limitation on the design front. It's not really doing that much that's crazy or unusual. Even in the Savage version, it's just like slightly bigger versions of things the normal did, just those slightly bigger things make it much scarier. And I do kind of wish there was a little bit more transformation of the arena and visual stuff going on. I'm ambivalent about the music track. Like, despite how solid it should be and how cool it is that it mixes in the FF4 Overture, I'm just not super sold on it. But, like, this fight is extremely fun to do. Falcio said, haven't gotten here yet. Yeah, this is stuff in the post-Endwalker you get to look forward to. All of the post-Endwalker fights are great. Cecil said this would be top of Endwalker for fun. Understandable. Sage said, I can't wait to get more of this in Roulette as people are catching up on Endwalker to go into Dawntrail. Yeah, I'm always happy to see this in Roulettes. And yeah, sure, Sage, sometime we will take you to do the Savage version of this if we can find a party. Okay. 22. So here's the good fight that gets Scream. Which is funny, because the Savage version of this fight is generally looked down on a whole lot. For pretty good reason. But I think the normal version of this fight is fantastic. It has a terrifying design, great visual effects, like baller music, as we've already gotten into. It's dangerous as hell. So much of this fight will just hecking kill you. The transforming arena is great for, like, getting you pushed around and having to think things through in general. Like, if it goes on long enough that you see some of the later combos of attacks, it's really scary. Like, this is a really fun fight again. Just kind of like Golbez right before it. I don't think the presentational pop is quite there, but I love the fight. Larasa said, the Savage version is dicks. No real mechanics until the last 3 minutes of the fight. Correct. That's the problem with the Savage version. Cecil, the Savage version of Hegemony would stay really far down, and Aegis would drop into, like, very mid. Possibly lower. That might be fun to just sit down and do as a soft tier list at some point, as my memories of the Savages. But we're just here to talk about the trials and stuff as is, so. 21. Emerald Weapon. Usually kind of fades from my memory. Like, as far as these go, this is the weapon I usually don't think about much, and then I get back into it and I'm like, oh wait, no, never mind, actually this fight's sick. Like, the first phase has a whole bunch of interesting little mechanisms, like the mines with the magnetism and stuff. And then you get to second phase, where you get the whole arena transformation, the golden empowering, the whole Gaius phases, where he's, like, literally summoning his army. Yeah, this one's kind of awesome. Just straight up. Not the spiciest fight. Enough things are survivable. They, like, it has some grace to it. A lot of fun. Lots of visual pop. We're hitting 24 out of 30 at this point, by the way. Like, the scores can't get a whole lot higher than this. Cecil said, for me, Diamond Weapon is over too fast, but Emerald Weapon goes on forever, leaving Ruby Weapon in the sweet spot. Understandable. Flex is saying, you put that back and then put it in top 5. Mizu said, as I like to call it, this is not what they mean by taking after your father. Dustin said underwater materia. Yeah, you don't need the underwater materia here, fortunately, but... Cecil said, did I never notice the chip tune before? It's just a little segment you may never have before. Yeah, no, it's real good. 20. Goddamn Dracula, by which I mean Hesperos. Okay, so first off, Hixvent Leonis is awesome. I love this track so much. Second off, the actual mechanics of the fight, I think, are great. Like, they are a little bit slow to come out whenever he has to set up for Phoenix, and, like, it takes a little bit before it ramps up, but it tends to be, like, back-to-back mechanics once it gets going. A lot of the attacks in the fight are deadly. The don't do your roll things are really cool. Like, the fight has a whole lot of fun mechanics. I'm gonna be a little bit sad that it's gonna be a little bit even more overgeared, but so much of the stuff in this fight is deadly that, like, it's not going to be overgearing for survival purposes, it'll just be the fight will end sooner. Yeah, no, Hesperos is a fight I've liked ever since it came out, and I think it's really cool. Cecil said, it's Wild Freaks and the official lyrics are wrong. Don't worry, there's a track I have to complain about the official lyrics to still to come. Sage said, I like when things go wrong in this fight because then you get to see some of the later mechanics. Yeah, and I'm going to be sad to see those vanishing a little bit. Either way, he's 20th place, which means we're in the top 20. Dear Lord. Number 19. It's Kefka. I briefly considered trying to do the laugh, and then I realized that sound is unmakeable by human, vocal cords. So Kefka is really fun. Like, I think the lie mechanic is so transparent that it isn't really that difficult to figure it out, but the different implementations of it, especially once he starts pulling up the final boss tower that still, to my knowledge, doesn't have an official name, and starts having that attack alongside him, but, like, sometimes lying about what it's doing, like, that's cool stuff. Like, the visual work of, like, all the different spell effects and the tower itself rising up, and when the tower itself rises up and Dancing Mad kicks in after not getting Dancing Mad is really cool. I just think this fight's really neat. It's unfortunate that most of its threat is solely in the mechanics that will instant kill you, but those handful of, like, people will die to the knockbacks in this fight. They're just not paying attention to it. You're not going to lose the fight otherwise. But, yeah, that's where I'm at with Kefka. O'Bear said, one of my favorite Savages, wish I could have done it when it was first released. Yeah, the Savage version of this fight is great as well. Yeah, unfortunately the last phase of Dancing Mad is specific to Savage. You only get God Kefka there. Okay. 18. Man, remember when Garuda and Ifrit were, like, right near the bottom of this list at first? So, Elemental Hero Flame Wingman, I mean, the fusion dance into Raktapaxa is actually a great fight, and that's partially because I value fights that will kick my face in. And this fight has a goddamn body count. Just constantly. I die sometimes in this fight. Like, it's so easy to, like, have the tethers not get grabbed, to fail to notice, like, the wing attack. Like, it has a ton of different special effects going on as the arena transforms to match, as they do the fusion dance and become Raktapaxa. It's intense. It's got a lot of cool combinations of their mechanics. Like, I think the only thing missing is that its music is alright. It's better than either of the original tracks. Especially Primal Judgment. It is way better than Primal Judgment. Yeah, I think that's like the only thing holding it back, because this fight's actually baller if you value the difficulty in fights. Yoshi said, I banish you to the chilly lime dimension. Sage said, okay, this one's allowed to have a 5 danger. Yep. Diesel said, I got this in a roulette a few weeks ago after not doing this since Endwalker's release and was humbled. Yup. Okay, 17. Zodiark. Hey. Hey, remember when this fight happens at level 83? And you're sitting there, having killed the primary evil of the game's story up to this point, and you're going, oh fuck, now what? To boot with that, amazing music. Awesome arena, way over the top visual effects. Like, fairly fun, although there is like a couple breaks. But you do have to pay regular attention to the fight and the spinning arena mechanic, which, like, people don't realize you can just follow somebody who knows what they're doing, even the extreme version, so people die. Like, it's a really cool fight. I like the Zodiark fight a lot. I do wish it had a little something extra, something to really push it over the top. And I do think its extreme is kind of a disappointment, but I really like the original. Aubert said, I wonder if when an Endwalker Ultimate happens, we'll get to fight a fully awakened Zodiark. I really hope so. Necromancer said, I actually timed out twice in a row trying to clear him the first time. It was so fun. Wow. That's kind of a surprise. The healers could not keep up with the Ockmorn? Yeah, okay. Ockmorns are like automatic difficulty points. Anyway, speaking of big spoiler Endwalker-y fights, here's number 16. So we were kind of expecting a fight with Hydaelyn at some point. It was always on the table throughout the history of this game. And it is very fitting that she ends up right next to Zodiark. That said, I do think she is the better fight. I think, this might be a bit spicy, but I do think the music is a little bit worse off. It's fine, but it's also exactly what I expected from the fight, if that makes any sense. It is really fun, though. It is pretty dangerous. I don't think I've seen a group fail it, but I've seen groups definitely be, like, playing chain res on it. It doesn't necessarily have that much unique, but it has little bits and pieces. It has a whole bunch of different phases going on. It has a bunch of callbacks to stuff about Hydaelyn and Vina. Yeah, it's really good. Could certainly argue for this one to be higher. Falcio said, wait, is that me in there? Quite possibly. I think I did take pictures when we took you through. Sage said, took me a while because, yeah, I did that with the Scions. Yep. This fight gets kind of the unique distinction that it's the one trial fight in the game you can do with NPCs, because it's such a big story deal, and that's really cool. Okay. Number 15 is also a big one. Hey, remember when the cutscene for Hades starts, and instead of giving him a title, it's literally just Hades? So this fight is held back by a very specific thing, and it's that this fight does not have item level sync, and because of it, it's kind of Shadowbringer's easiest fight, which is a penalty in my books. It is awesome otherwise. Like, it is the transformation, the transitions, the just constant variety, the voice acting, the music. Like, so much of this fight is hitting it out of the fucking park. And it is literally just held back by being the highest ranking trial on here to have a negative demerit because it's the easiest fight in Shadowbringers when it should be the big climactic final boss. Sage said, "This is why I say the capstone should have item level syncs." I completely agree with you. Obear said, "Yeah, it's too easy. Extreme is fun." Adio said, "I've had like 2 or 3 wipes in it at the end semi-recently. Interesting." Anyway, here's a fight that's going to seem weird placed right next to it in terms of grandioseness, but is really good for number 14. I don't know about you all, but I think the Barbarisha fight is freaking wild. Like, the standard, the sword phase of the fight is okay. Like, it's a little bit slow, it's not necessarily doing anything too crazy, it's impressive visually. It's once you get into the transformed phase in the winds, this fight just doesn't stop. Ever. It's possibly the most active and crazy fight that has been allowed in normal trials to date. It's obviously getting the bonus points for that. Like, just, this fight doesn't stop until it finally chills back out. It still has a little bit of originality, too, on top of, like, the really straightforward dodging and stuff that's going on. I think it's lacking a little bit in presentation. I don't think the arena is all that special. The music is fine. I do have to say the English voice acting absolutely undersells the, like, dive bomb attack. Like, she feels like she should be screaming, and it just kind of comes out like, and that feels mismatched to me, but, like, yeah, no, this fight is fun as hell. The arena is her goddamn hair, which is cool conceptually. I just don't think it necessarily makes for, like, the coolest looking arena, even if it's conceptually cool. I don't know. Anyway. Obear said, "I wish more fights went crazy like this." Yeah. Cecil said, "If you switch on the Japanese track, she literally does the ora ora ora." Yeah, I would believe that she would, and I need to experience that at some point. Okay, number 13. So this is, like, the second best fight in Heaven's Ward, by the way. Nidhogg is just a really good fight. Like, it isn't necessarily mechanically the most intensive, but it is probably the single most active and involved and attention-demanding fight in Heaven's Ward. It has some spice to it. It's not completely trivial, despite the overgearing. It has some great thematic choices in terms of what attacks it used, in terms of the whole, like, Estinian phase. Like, the Estinian phase is so iconic that Dragoon is still borrowing moves from this fight. The music and, like, the voice work quote-unquote, for dragons in it is great. Like, there's a lot of cool stuff going on in Nidhogg. As far as being, like, arguably the real final boss of Heavensward, yeah. Cecil said, if you asked me to name my top 10, this would probably be my number 10. Lou said same. Yeah, understandable. This was a huge set piece when it came out. Necromancer said he can have the attack Hot Tail, but I could not name my race chocobo Hot Tail. Square Enix explain. Our boy Eggnog. Okay. Speaking of dragons, number 12. Shinryu. It's the third best of the Stormblood fights on this list. And I think you understand why. Like, this fight brings up a ton of everything. It has a bunch of unique mechanisms, especially in the last phase, when, like, he's slamming down parts of his body and, like, shattering the terrain and stuff. And you have to watch out for the capacity that the ground might just give out under you. It is super cinematic. It's also really challenging due to the frequency and engaging, like, mechanics of it. Or it was. Like, this is one of the only fights that I've ever seen get called for nerfs. And what they decided to do instead was just not item level cap it and let it naturally get outscaled. So it runs into the same issue Hades does, which Sage is bringing up in the commentary right as I say it. If it were item level capped, it would be even better, but it isn't, so it ends so goddamn fast. But yeah, no, this fight's baller. Necromancer said, I only recently realized why people were saying Xenos lays eggs all the time when I was soloing this fight. Yup. Mizu said, I was so mad at this one. Lou said I was not one of those good people. Yeah, bring back launch Shinryu. Let people suffer. Okay. And then, number 11. Barely missing out on the top 10. Shiva Eden is a really good fight that I understand why people are immediately like, no, put this higher. Yeah, no, this fight is fantastic. You get two very different modes going on. You get multiple different phases that focus on different things. You get the awesomeness of Return to Oblivion. You get, like, gorgeous visual effects. You get the surprise work-in of, like, oh, Reen isn't just handling Shiva, it's also Hydaelyn. Like, there's so much going on in this fight. I actually struggled to ding this. This is a 28 out of 30, by the way, if you haven't been paying attention to the total scores. The only dings I could put on this are that I think the final phase, being just a DPS race, is a little bit boring. And just kind of extends the length of the fight when you get it. You've already won at that point, unless you're literally the only person alive. And the danger of the fight is generally not super spicy. Like, it tends to kill individual people, but less so groups of people. But, yeah, really cool. I like the return fight with Shiva a whole lot. And if you want to put this in your top 10, I don't blame you. So, speaking of top 10, it's about time to start doing that. I bet you'll have forgotten some of the fights that I've left off up to this point. Number 10. Titan. This fight is the single deadliest fight I think is on this list. I have never gotten this in roulette and seen it gone well. The moment he transforms, half the party dies, and you spend the entire fight playing 52 body pickup. Not only that, but the fight's sick as hell. There's a ton of different mechanics going on that, like, later into the fight start layering over each other. The different transformations are unique and go on. This is my favorite of the Eden remixes, hands down. It's great. I think the only thing that I can limit on this is that I think the visuals are kind of like, they're good, they're impactful, but the Savage version definitely ate some of the, like, oh, we're saving some of the real pop of this fight for Savage exclusive. So those are the only, like, penalties I could give this. Bear said, mechanics are for cars. Titan exists. Necromancer, I feel like I got run the fuck over. Cecil said, okay, but in my defense, I was literally disconnected. Correct. We must needs reconstruct Titan from thy memory. How many wheels did he have? 4? I believe it's 4. Yeah, this might be in my personal, like, top 3. Just forgetting scores for a moment, this is one of the most fun fights in the game for me. Okay. 9th. So, first thing I want to say about Athena. I fucking adore this boss track. I love how it's this big rave number that sounds celebratory, but the further that you get into it, the lyrics get more and more monstrous and corrupted. And also, I don't care what the official lyrics say, scream all you like, your god can hear you, should be what this version of the lyrics say, and that's how I always hear it, and that's a raw as hell goddamn line. Also, the mechanics are crazy, the visual effects are absolutely nuts. You have to pay constant attention to the fight. Like, everything is very dangerous and really deadly. Just, like, I think she's lacking a tiny little bit more of originality in the mechanics to make her, like, a perfect fucking fight, but she's still an insane fight, as is. Bear said, we can make her worse. Adio said, she can hear you, she just doesn't care. Yeah. Everybody would. Flux said the flow survived. The fight is so fun to both tank and cast. The callback to Ultima, yeah. This is just absolutely fantastic finale fight for Pandemonium. But it's not even in my top 3 from Endwalker. Speaking of tops, I didn't mention that Titan was the top 3rd from Shadowbringers. Here's number 2 at position 8. Eden's Promise is also kind of an absolute banger, and I know Bear hates it. So here's the thing, right? This fight does so much cool stuff with integrating the story beats of, like, the mid-phase, but also the mechanics of FF8, calling back to all the primals and literally junctioning them for spells, and structuring the fight so that you learn all those junctions in the first half of the fight, and then later on, she is storing and stocking them for later to weave them between all of her different other attacks. Also, the arena's flippin' gorgeous. The music, I never got sick of it, and you get the extra music in this, and all the tons of voice work that's going on in it. Like, I think the only thing I can punish this for is the fact that, like, the opening phase and the mid phase are slower. Just straight up. Especially the mid phase is very slow. If it didn't have the final phase, it would be placing a lot lower in most regards. But, yeah, no, I see so many bodies drop because people don't figure out the first phase and they're not ready for the final phase. And also, this is maybe the single best screenshot I took the entire time I was gathering screenshots for this. Eden's Promise does not agree with Gay Pride Month. Also, I just want to mention, we were all expecting Ultimecia as the final boss fight because it's an FF8 thing. And technically, this is Artemis plus Gaia, which is Artemisia, which is Ultimecia, and the design is based upon an ancient figure of Artemis, and I can't believe they just found a completely different way to do Ultimecia that made all of us initially go, oh, it's not Ultimecia, damn it. Necromancers, when you see the stack you left out for yourself later. Cecil said, I totally maintain that this is totally Kingdom Hearts music. Kinda, yeah. Okay. Next position, number 7. The third best fight from Endwalker. I'm sorry, but Pandemonium's just fucking awesome. Like, as far as normal fights go, this fight is nuts. Like, it's almost Barbaricia level, stuff is constantly happening. It has the only real heal check in the entirety of this list. It has an incredibly creepy model that does all sorts of creepy things. It has a unique arena with some, like, fun twists on classic mechanics. Like, I think the only complaints I have about this is that they probably could have gone a little bit bigger on the presentation in some ways. Like, it lacks the really big pop moments that would have me giving it a perfect score, but, like, this is the hardest fight in Shadowbringers. Like, I love this fight. It's just so damn good. Mizu said how? It's a spooter house. It is a spooter house. It's a spooter prison from hell. Obear said, harrowing hell makes me feel alive as a healer. Yeah? That was not something I was ready for when I was solo healing it for my first attempt. Also, the Savage version is one of the best Savage fights in the game, too, so that's really cool, too. Number 6. Do you remember what fight I didn't list from Heavensward yet? Because it's Alexander Prime. So, like, part of it is just that this has to be compared to the other Heavensward fights, and gets, like, 3 best ofs because of it. But also, this fight's great. It isn't quite as active as I'd like, so it loses a couple points on fun, and, like, that's kind of about it. The thing is, the integration of the thematics of time and stuff are so good in this. The fact it affects the audio, the fact you go back in time and destroy the ads that were holding you in time stop in a previous cutscene so you do not die. You save your own goddamn life by going back in time. Okay? That's so damn cool. Like, the first time I went through the wormholes and got to see that, I was like, hold on, what the fuck? Oh, this is cool as hell. It makes it one of the best thematically designed fights in the game. It's incredible visuals, like, literally giant robot Alexander rising up to fight you in the background while you're fighting his soul is just, I don't know. Alexander Prime is maybe a little easy these days. Like, not the completely spiciest fight, but is absolutely worthy of ending off the Alexander Wade series. Addie said, you can still have wipes here even after all these years later. Yeah. The time slowing down and the music slowing is so cool. Best boss all years, Alexander Prime sweep. Also, fun fact about Rise, by the way, that's been my ringtone for like 5 years. The ringing at it just perfectly fits. Okay. Number 5. Is where the final boss of Final Fantasy XIV shows up. The End Singer. Would not have placed this high a couple patches ago, but she actually got an item level cap. And now she's more dangerous, and you are actually guaranteed to see the whole fight, and it's great again. I still don't think this fight is necessarily the craziest. Like, most of the fights, if you're paying attention, most of the attacks are actually pretty easy to dodge, or you can just follow somebody who knows what they're doing. But, like, everything in this fight is huge. The core mechanic of, like, rewinding the planets and repeating them and stuff, just... it's so excellently thematic. It's a little slow to execute. And that little ding on the fun score of this is a little bit of a ding, and is like the only thing I can say that's really all that bad about it, because otherwise, yeah, no, Endsinger's great. And I'm looking at the score that I have listed here, and I'm realizing this is actually probably the number 4 on this list, or it might be beating what I finalized my score on for the number 4. God, Song of Hope's so good. Adio points out the Extreme, unfortunately, is not so good. It just doesn't live up to it. Yeah, everybody talking about the phase transition and just, yeah, absolutely top tier stuff. Okay. I had to let that play. Position 4. Again, I think the score is about to display lower because I was adjusting things until the last possible moment. But Stormblood's second best fight shouldn't surprise anybody. Or at least it sure shouldn't if you know me. Omega is awesome. This fight gives no shits. This fight demolishes people again and again and again. It has a music track so iconic that it, like, this theme song has now appeared as Omega's theme in non-FF14 games. Like, the design of the fight has a whole ton of cool stuff and cool re-implementations of Omega's shit. The danger and engagement scores are off the chart. Stormblood's best in that regard. I think the only thing this fight's really missing to me is that I do kind of wish the visuals had a little something extra. But, like, yeah, okay, I have it as final score 30, so you could technically consider this number 5, actually. You could consider this below Endsinger. But, like, yeah, no, this fight's just the sickest thing in the game, and I am always so hyped to get it in roulettes. Because there will be blood. Okay. Our last 3, by the way, are all from different expansions, and they're all the best fights of their given expansions. So, Dude, Ceramus was a way cooler fight than I was expecting. And it's really cool that this is basically the final boss we've had before Dawntrail. Like, this is the last mandatory fight in the game right now. The remix is absolutely nuts, and you get a great finale track too. Every single animation in this fight is over the top as hell, and is just absolutely slapping. It's also a really spicy fight. It's really easy for people to die on. There's several things that are just straight up deadly, and or a lot of things that people will rack up a ton of damage on. Like, the funny thing is it's not that different from the Extreme, even. It's just a little bit more transparent about what's going on and doesn't have the, like, hard knowledge check of the Meteor. But, yeah, no, this fight is basically perfect scores across the board for me. with a bonus of the best visual work in Endwalker. I hope Ceramus is a demonstration of what we're expecting in Dawntrail. Because if it is, we're in for some absolutely crazy fights. Obear said, it has an attack called Nostalgia. Yeah. Neon Neptunian pointing out the black hole. This song is so amazing. They gave us a freaking Pokemon remix for the track. Cecil said, I'm just an easy mark for FF4 stuff. I'm not an easy mark for FF4 stuff, and I still think this fight is cool as hell. So that leaves number 2. I don't think it would surprise anybody to see Warrior of Light in a top 5 or top 10 of all the fights in the game for people. Like, maybe for some people the surprise is that it's not number 1. You know, this fight's sick as hell. Like, it does so much cool stuff thematically, the whole, like, summoning the other warriors for the final phase. There's a whole ton of different mechanics in the fight that are oftentimes still pretty dangerous. The whole thing where he's using his limit breaks, the fact that he can hollow ground if you try to just throw out a limit break against him. The visual effects, like, look at this nonsense. This is nuts. To the Edge. It's the only track used in this fight, and it's become one of the most beloved in Final Fantasy XIV. Yeah, just absolutely insanely good fight. Obear said To the Edge is his number 1 favorite song. Yep. Cecil said, but how is this not number 1? Lou said, oh, big feels. Yep. There's a lot of love for this fight. But some of you seem to have kept track and figured out what number 1 is already, so let's just get this over with. It feels a little weird saying a fight from 2 expansions ago is, like, the best in the game, but also Tsukuyomi is kind of insane as a normal fight. Like, there's a little bit of slowdown in the ads phase. And that's the only ding I can really give this. It has gorgeous music, multiple phases of gorgeous music. It has great story and thematic integration with unique mechanics going on. Like Gosetsu coming out to challenge Xenos when he tries to strike down, like, her inner psyche is it's so blatant, but it's so good. It's spicy as hell. People will die to the mood stacks, and then, God forbid, like, the fact that she demands an Awkborn while people are running around for mechanics kills people. The visuals are off the charts. Like, the multiple transformations, the model design, the effects, everything in this fight was insane. And, like, I kept sitting there being like, this can't be the best fight in the game right. No, it just is. Necromancer said, I love the smoke and the attacks and animations being used. Yeah, the thematics were spot on, says Flex. She said, the phase 2 has the prettiest arena. Diesel said, even in the ads phase, there's so much flavor that the slowness doesn't bother him. Yeah, like, it's... Show me a problem with it. Like, they really cooked. They really, really cooked. Alright. And with that, I don't want to think about how long it has been since I started this presentation. The answer's like 4 hours since I turned my stream on, by the way. I don't know what the actual recording time necessarily was in the middle of that, but we're through. So that was fun. Don't expect an update to this list anytime soon. This was several hours of work. But thank you all for coming by and hanging out. If you were watching on YouTube, leave a comment and tell me how wrong I was about something. And thank you for somehow finding it on YouTube. Yeah. Have a good day.